Hello and welcome back to Uncovered. Today we are going to talk about all things handstands.
Because it is the first day of Handstand February. How exciting.
It is the first day of Handstand February. So if you don't know what Handstand February is, we're going to talk a little bit about it and the history soon. But pretty much like today's episode is we're going to talk about this event. Well, I guess it's like a month-long event, but then also talk a little bit about why we handstand as pole dancers and just in the community, really.
Yeah, and what it can do for your training too, because I think it's such an underestimated tool. Yeah.
Definitely. And then also we'll give you some tips as well at the end on how to start working onto it, some alternatives and stuff like that as well. So let's just dive straight in and talk about Handstand February because it is day one. And like, what do you do? What are you going to do today on day one?
And some of you might even just be going, what the hell is Handstand February? Like, I've never heard of this thing before.
So it's like, so how best to explain it? So many people participate in it, but I guess the best way to explain it is sort of going back and looking at the history of how it was created. So it was created in 2009, so not that long ago. Well, actually,
that's
it's
more than 10 years. Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Oh my goodness.
2018 was a long time ago. Like,
wow, that's so. I was thinking 2019. No, 2009. It was created. Sorry, guys. And it was created by Toby J. If you don't know him, he's an acrobat, sort of
pole dancer,
trade, I guess. If you're a pole dancer, pole doctor, he fixes poles, and he just does so much in the community. You've probably seen him perform as well. I'm not sure what else he does. I guess he just does a lot of everything. Anyway, he created it with a friend in 2009 as a way to keep themselves accountable and to do something fun, as he describes from the group on Facebook that he made. So in 2010, then him and Susie continued it, and then that's when they created the actual group and made it like a public thing. So they started it a year ago, and then they created it a public one.
And for context, the group is a public group on Facebook that anybody can join. And Handstand February, like Renee said, is about holding yourself accountable and working towards your handstand. So I think the original idea was every single day in February you do a handstand, but you got to try to do it in a different location.
Yes. Yeah. So it was like, and because it was created by like acrobat sort of like gymnastic background, it was just the standard handstand, like nothing fancy. And you just do it in a different location, wherever you are. So whether that's in the office, at home, you're traveling or anything. So accountability, fun. Also
makes you get creative too.
And then it gave you a bit of it gave it to like create a little bit of a community amongst the handstanders, and to also chat, to encourage, to give some tips and that sort of stuff as well.
I remember one of the years, I think it was the year I did it every day pretty solidly. And the people I worked with were actually in on it. And they're like, Steph, you can do like a handstand in the lift, and we'll hold the doors open, and we'll do this and we'll do that. So it was a really like a little bit of an event. Like, I worked with a pretty good team, so that's helpful. But yeah, it really encourages people to think differently and outside the scope. However, if you were like, look, happy to get on board, but like that sounds like too much effort, just doing a handstand a day is fine.
You can do it to whatever capacity. Some people like to bank them up. Obviously, the idea is to do one every day. But if you want to get involved in, say, like posting on Instagram, like some people have like challenges. I know I was involved in a challenge through my adult gymnastics that I went to. And the most creative handstand that you got to post and you got to tag them in, so it's obviously some advertising for them, would win a 10-pack in their studio. And I ended up winning. There was different categories. Cool. There was like most interesting place, most artistic. I don't know what the other one was. I think I won most artistic. So it was just like different angles, different shapes. So, you know, it's actually turned in a huge thing, and some businesses really get involved in it as well. So you don't even have to take pictures. It's just a way of bringing about getting more handstands into our lives.
Yeah. And because handstands work so much more to the body. Most people like think about a handstand, they're like, upside down in my hands. Like, and they actually get pretty scared about that concept. But like, what are the biggest benefits to doing handstands for pole dancers?
There's so much. It's a lot, like obviously the balance aspect to it creates, opens up opportunities for so many other tricks in pole. The balance aspect of a handstand as well, that is like the end goal. Like that is the hardest part. You can do a handstand leaning against something, in a different shape and stuff like that. For me, I would say that with the handstands, it's just about having that strength overhead. So that pushing overhead strength in your arms. Obviously, I hope you can see me on YouTube. I've got my arms overhead. I'm trying to talk in the microphone and put my arms overhead. It's very difficult because we do a lot of pulling, and we've identified, especially in our studio, that we all do so much pulling and there's not a lot of pushing.
No.
We don't do a lot of push-ups. Pole dancers usually hate push-ups, which is fine.
They kind of suck, but
they do suck, and everything we do is pulling, unless you're in a split grip. But it's not a lot. So I find that there's a lot of advanced pole dancers that come and they can't handstand. They can't even kick up against a wall, and I'm like, wow, like this is insane. And then you go to do some tricks, and then it's like, you do notice the difference between someone that can handstand well and that control of the body.
And what I was going to say is, whenever you guys think about a move or like listen to your instructors, how many times do they tell you it's like a push-pull? Like you have to have the push and the pull. And if we're training so much pull and not enough push, then we've got a weakness in our training. And thinking about handstands and thinking about that overhead push motion, like when you get to advance and you start doing butterflies, handsprings, aishas, whatever you want to call them, as soon as that hand is overhead, that is an overhead push.
Yeah.
So this is where there's like that huge benefit to pole dancers by doing handstands. Like obviously it still works on your core, your balance, and your whole body has to be, if you're doing like a straight one, has to be tight, right?
And you think about it, like when we are doing those aishas and handsprings, that's one arm overhead. So you want to be able to master having two arms overhead first, because that's more weight in your arm just having the one. So yeah.
And while the pull will obviously help counter it, like there's still a lot of push there. So I think, because we've just redone our curriculum, and that was something that we identified was the push thing. So we've brought handstands into more of our things.
And the other really great point is the fear aspect.
Yeah.
So there's so many people that are scared of doing handstands because scared of falling, or they don't know how to twist out of it. Like a lot of pole moves, like obviously you encourage people to like lower down slowly, but what about flips and dynamic stuff? Having that ability to like get over that fear of being in a place of instability, I guess. And that comes back to balance a little bit, but also being able to like twist out of a handstand or do different shapes to land out of it will also really help with pole.
Yeah. And I think, there was a thought I had there and now I've lost it. But yeah, like, cause there's so many people when you start training them, they're like, oh, I can't be upside down. It's like, but you're going to be upside down on a pole, even just in an invert. So yeah, definitely good to start getting comfortable and familiar, in it very, very early.
Yeah. And I guess there's so many different components of a handstand. So if we sort of start from, we'll go like, I was going to say like head to toe, but like from our hands to our toes when we're upside down. Like the first thing is like your hands on the ground and that wrist strength to be able to hold. I know that when I first started handstanding, I couldn't do any longer than maybe 10, 15 minutes of training because it was too much demand on my wrists, and my wrists were so sore in that position. A lot of people like to grab and hold on to like parallel bars or something like that because it's a better position for their wrist. And that means they don't have the mobility in the wrist. So doing the handstands, itself will increase that mobility. And then if you're training for it and doing extra exercises, that will be great for anything in pole as well. So wrist would be the first one. Yeah.
And to add to that too, like just for context, we are like upright people, right? And like think how big our trunk of our body is in comparison to our upper body. So we're transferring that weight, and we're transferring that from like our feet, ankles, quads, glutes, everything that goes on there to like these little shoulder, well for me, these little shoulder bicep muscles.
Yeah, speak for yourself.
and like into your wrist, which is like tiny in your hand. So I think for like keeping that in mind, it's like these are challenging exercises and they're challenging because and Simone talked about it in the episode I think we did on Twisted Grip.
Yeah.
And she was like, pole dancers are upside down people. So we have to get better at strengthening ourselves in that position.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, the shoulders, like the amount that they have to do to stop yourself. Like you think about the motion of your arm and your shoulder, like we sort of had talked about in the past, but you rotate, you lift up, you lift down to the side. Like it does a full, like the shoulder joint is the most mobile in your whole body because it's a ball and socket joint. And I guess your hip is also ball and socket, but it's deeper. So the shoulder, and that's why there can be a lot of injuries in pole because that is not as stable of a joint as the rest of your body. And say like, with your elbow, it only sort of goes one way.
Yeah. It's got a lot more movement and a lot more rotation.
So to be able to hold your body in that upside down position with those shoulders, like it takes a great deal of strength to work up towards that and to do it. People make it look effortlessly, a handstand.
Renee is one of those people.
I love
You've
handstands.
worked really hard. She's the handstand queen.
Oh, maybe not the queen.
Well, in this podcast episode, because I can't do it.
In this podcast episode, I am the handstand queen. But people make it look effortlessly, even just to kick up. But kicking up against the wall can be really, really difficult for those shoulders. So, just getting your body up over your head is like the biggest thing. And then like you were saying, like with the trunk, stabilizing, not arching your back, all that movement. Think of all that movement we have in our body and trying to stop that. And then also your legs. Like one gymnastics coach once told me about the importance of the legs and that if you do a really good handstand training session, you should be sore in your legs the next day. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm not even like everything's in the arms and maybe the core, like why the legs? And it's the ability to squeeze and hold, but also like when you're transitioning. So stepping into it, if you're doing like a little bunny hop, that takes a lot of force production from your glutes, from your quads, like squeezing the legs together at the top. If you're lifting up and like there's a lot of mobility involved in your legs and your hips as well. So it is really a full body. It's not when people say, oh, we're going to do upper body, you're going to just do handstand. I'm like, it's not just, and like, I appreciate that that's what they think it mainly is, but it's not just that. And if you're floppy in your lower body, then you're never going to be able to hold that really good handstand.
Yeah, it's about like one of the biggest things I've taken away from handstands and appreciated is that like dish position, being able to hold a dish position and being really solid from my toes through to my fingers, literally. Like it is
body awareness,
so much body awareness and like little things you don't realize, like where should my head be looking and like how that can impact you. But yeah, going back from a strength perspective and getting started, like we talked about the wrist just before. So like if you haven't started going up, maybe it's starting to get more comfortable in downward dog positions. That I think, and like, because I am assuming the shoulder mobility, what type of mobility do you need to be able to do? Like, do you need to be able to have it? My hands are up if you're on YouTube. Like, do you need to be able to get your hands all the way to your ear to start handstands?
No, not at all. So I think maybe we should go into like the perfect handstand and then we can go into the alternatives and what.
I just get excited.
She is getting excited. She wants to do a really good handstand. Yeah. There is a lot to handstand. So I guess with the perfect handstand, you want to be in a complete straight line. Yeah, if you look at some gymnasts and stuff, you could draw a straight line, you get a ruler, and it's like goes right down the middle. So yes, your hands need to be up over your head. Your shoulders need to be open. So this can be very confusing because shoulders opening means that arm over your head. So as soon as your shoulders or your arms come in front of your face, the space between your body and your arm is smaller. So that's when you're closing it. Okay. Yeah. So some people get confused about the opening and closing. So yeah, arms up overhead, making sure that our back doesn't arch to compensate our hands up over our head. Yeah. With the dish shape, obviously we practice that for stability. We don't want to be in a full dish because that is not going to be a completely straight position, but we want to be in like a lengthened dish. So we want to like reach out as far as we can and have that core stability. So yeah, no arching of the back. We want to squeeze our butt and tuck our tailbone under just a little bit. And then from there also with our legs completely straight to our hips. So a lot of that line comes from your shoulders and your back because most people can squeeze their butt and have their legs in line. It's just when their back and when their shoulders can't open enough. You also want to be like a slight lean. I was always told like a slight feels like you're overbalancing. Like, so you want the weight to be in the middle of your hand. So you've got your fingers and then you've got the palm, and you want the weight to be in the middle, if not a little bit to the fingers, because you can really push those fingers and you've got a lot of movement to control the handstand. Yeah. You can also have, quite a lot of weight in the palm of your hand, but it's harder to push back out. So if you're sort of falling down, it's harder to correct. If you're leaning over, the fingers pushing into the ground can help pull you back.
Yeah, something I remember being told like very early on is like the whole like froggy, is it froggy? Like you put your hands on a table and then push your fingers in, like the tips of your fingers in, and push your palms in, and then your knuckles sort of come off. Yeah.
So there is a couple ways of doing it. And again, there's not really a super right, super wrong way. I guess it depends who you talk to, what sort of professional, because
sorry if I'm taking you away from the perfect handstand.
No. This is all to do with it. There's like, obviously if you talk to like gymnasts, they have their way of doing it compared to yogis and contortionists and anybody else that sort of does handstand acrobats. But yeah, you're right, Steph, when you say that like pushing down so that the knuckles come up. So I'm sort of showing on the YouTube. On the tube. It kind of looks like little spider hands. Also grabbing the ground with your hands. So having those fingertips. So you don't necessarily have to send the hands down because the fingers down, because some people find it quite painful. I used to find it quite painful. So I always say to people, think about trying to grab the ground with your hand like it's something soft. And that will just help engage. So you're not going to go into a fist, obviously. You're just going to sort of push those fingers into the ground, and then you have that stability, through that. So going from there, when that's to sort of help balance while you're up there. For like to be able to do a handstand, you don't have to do the perfect handstand. You don't have to do the perfect line. Nobody is going to when you first learn it. The one biggest takeaway I've ever been told with handstands is just spend time up on your hands upside down. Yeah. That is the biggest thing. Doesn't matter what your technique is. Technique comes last, really. Yeah. Obviously, you don't want to be injuring yourself, but I did a workshop with a really famous handstander, Morgan Rose Maroney. She's now, I think, overseas. She might be back. I can't remember, but she's a professional handstander. She was an elite gymnast. And I thought for sure it's like, okay, I need to just get the most perfect technique and then I'll have a really good handstand. And she's like, no, technique comes last. You need the strength to hold yourself upside down. You need to have that body box ticked first and just spend time upside down. Because just think about it. When we learn to walk, you stand up, you kind of fail, and then you get that feeling. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to squeeze here this time. So you want to just be upside down so many times. And then your body gets used to being upside down. Like for me now, I can hold a pretty good handstand, even if I'm a little bit tired, because my body knows where that balance is. And I don't have to think a lot about it. I just sort of have to remember the key things I need to do and try and remember to engage. And my body will end up helping me naturally find that area.
And I think that's a really good reminder for everything, right? Like if you've got the strength, then technique will come. Like you shouldn't be like the technique is not going to perfect or make you the best person, because we can teach technique to anybody. Yeah, building strength is the key.
Definitely. And in doing that, like making sure that you do small amounts often with handstands. Again, it's a balance thing. Your body needs time to like chill and recover from it, even though you might feel like, oh, I don't need like a heaps of recovery. It's like you're creating a new neurological pathway. So you need to leave it. Doing 10 minutes a day every day is better than doing a big 1 hour, 2 hour session for the whole week.
Oh God, your risks after that would be like,
you're going to, it's more risk of injury, because as soon as you get fatigued, which you will if you're new, you're going to start holding in bad positions. You're going to create bad movement patterns and stuff like that. So doing small amounts, like I said earlier, I couldn't do any more than 15 minutes for my wrists. But small amounts, you don't have to do every day, and that's the whole point of Handstand February is to get that. It's like, just do a handstand. Doesn't matter if you train, doesn't matter it like hardcore for it. You don't have to do a crazy warm up, like whatever you need to do. Some people can just go do it without doing any warm up whatsoever. Some people need a warm up.
Yeah. And I think when doing it, again, consistency with any type of training, we talk about this all the time. And I remember when doing it, God, my handstands got real good at one point.
Yeah.
And then, but it does.
And then sometimes you need a break, a big break, because I had a big break, I don't think I was traveling or doing whatever. And then I came back and I was like, wow, mine have gotten better without training them.
Yeah. So it happens with a lot of things, but hey.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And also, if you are hardcore obsessed and you want to keep being upside down, but your wrist can't handle it, or you're overtraining, do an alternative. So do a forearm stand. So take it off your wrist and put it on your forearms, or a headstand, or forearm with your sort of head off the ground, or something like that. Even just work on doing shoulder stands. Anything balancing will help. To start with, if you can't do any of that, planks and side planks. Do a plank and then remove a limb. And then that'll work on that strength and that balance. Yeah. All of it helps. Like Steph said before, down dogs as well, to get that positioning, and just get your body prepared. Just do alternatives, and then they can eventually be your warm up as well.
Yeah. And it's all starting, right? If you don't have handstands regularly in your training, you're probably part of the general population of pole dancers who, it's not a common. I encourage
so many people to just add in handstands to your training. Add it in. You'll see some professional pole dancers, really experienced pole dancers, instructors that will just fully promote that as well.
Yeah.
And just stand by handstands.
Because they've seen the value of them in their own training. So I think, of course, you're going to promote things that you're really excited about. And even if you just go into Google, I remember doing this ages ago because I was sharing something on Instagram for the studio, and it was about handstands. And I'm like, okay, what are the benefits of handstands? There are so many goddamn benefits to handstands. There was a lot. So I think
that blood rushing as well. Sometimes when I've been sitting at a desk all day, I'm like, I need to do a handstand. I just need to do a handstand because I'm stuck mentally, and I just go upside down and just take a breath. It's like aerial yoga or something where you just have to go upside down and then you feel better because you just feel like everything's reset.
Yeah.
But that's a mental one for handstands. But also, if you get stuck and you get frustrated, experiment with different shapes.
Yeah, definitely. Especially Handstand February can be a lot of fun too, because you're doing something every single day. And if you're like me, you're probably doing it on the wall every single day, which is okay because that's where you got to start, right? It's starting getting used to the position and building the strength in your shoulders and your wrists and everything else to be upside down.
And make it fun. Enjoy it. You don't have to have a straight, strict handstand every single time. Do stag, do a straddle, do fang, do twisted, do just
get people involved. Do
a doubles one.
Yeah, one of my nieces are born in February, and we always have a family thing. And I've got photos of her sitting on my lap while I'm in a straddle up against a wall. It was very safe. That sounds bad, but
actually, I had one upside down against a pole, and I had a kid holding the pole and sitting on top. Yeah.
So, and team up, if you have a little group, we do have outside of the Handstand February page, we do have one for our studio as well for people who want to get involved, who don't want to share their progress in such a big public group.
Yeah.
So you don't need to.
And also YouTube videos to give you a tutorial and a shape.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to get involved, but you're I don't know what to do and I don't want to plan it, then we can link that into these show notes as well. And there's all videos for every single day.
Yeah. So we did that last year. We did a little bit of a Handstand February challenge for the Addicted Pole Fitness Studio. And they were really popular amongst our girls, just giving them ideas and getting them involved. And it is because we have quite a few instructors who really love handstands. So the vibe in the studio, we have a handstand drop in. They really love doing it and they want to improve. And probably even more so now that we're integrating this stuff more and more into what we do all the time. But the whole purpose of Handstand February is just to have some fun.
Have some fun.
Connect with the community.
Try and create a habit if you're wanting to create a habit. You can take it as serious or as, what's the opposite word to serious is
That's too hard for my brain right now.
Just like his blase, I guess,
Yeah.
like just meh, like whatever, just join in a couple times, or you can use it to create some good habits.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, check out, we'll share, because this is Handstand February. It starts today. So we'll share some stuff on the Uncovered page for what we did for the studio. So if you want to get some ideas, you can have a look at that, because yeah, it's a good place to start if you're like, if we've now sold you on like, shit, I need to start doing handstands.
Yes.
Even if it's not for this month, like they're great resources anyway, just to get yourself started.
Yay for handstands, guys.
Yeah. I'm like,
This is my favorite podcast.
she's like, I think we need to do Handstand February. I'm like, yeah, I think you're right.
It's coming up. Everyone's talking about it in our studio.
Yeah.
So it's a big hype thing. And especially you can do this anywhere. Handstands, you don't need to be at a studio. You do it at home. If you're in ISO, if you're traveling, it doesn't matter. Like even if you don't have reception to upload, you can still do the handstand.
And take the picture.
Yeah.
You don't even have to take the picture. You can just do the handstand.
Yeah, get involved, guys.
Yeah, but look after your body during this time too. Listen to it. If you need a day off, take a day off. Don't get too pressured by the whole posting every day thing. But yeah, that's what Handstand February is, and that are our tips for doing handstands.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, so keep an eye out on the page this week. We'll share some handstandy tutorials and stuff to get you guys started if you want to develop your handstands. But yeah, we hope to see in the near future that handstands become more and more integrated in the pole world, purely because they're going to help us be stronger pole dancers overall. But anyway, come hang out with us on Instagram. We're at uncovered.pd. And don't forget, we are on YouTube. You can watch us live, not live. You can watch us on YouTube, see all the weird things we do with our hands. Sometimes there's a dog, who knows. But yeah, thanks for listening. And until next time. I'm like, is that the stop button?